Hello again, all you fighting fantasy aficionados. This is Hakon with another episode of driving down memory lane. In this case, almost literally, as I tackle Freeway fighting fantasy game book number 13 for the fourth time. My first three attempts all ended in horrible deaths. Not actually horrible deaths in this case. In this book, you don't die so much as your mission being over because your car breaks down, or you get knocked unconscious and your car is stolen from you, or you give your car away, which is possible actually if you obey some of the bandits you meet along the way. Your mission, which you have chosen to take on, is to drive from, well, that's a little bit ahead of myself. This is in a sort of a dark future kind of story. It takes place in 2022, which doesn't seem that far away now, but in 1985, when this book was written, 2022 was a really far way off. And a setting, the 2020s indeed have been a setting for many science fiction stories over the years. It's 2022, a virus has wiped out most of mankind and has polarized people into two camps, basically the good guys and the bad guys. Yeah, I know. And you're a good guy and you live in a settlement called New Hope. And you have been in contact with an oil refinery town called San Anglo, or an oil refinery settlements, and you have agreed to trade some seeds and grains for petrol, of course, petrol being a really valuable commodity in this dark future that is described in the book. Your mission then is to drive down to San Anglo and sort out the deal and drive back with a truck of petrol. The story doesn't really say how they're going to get the grain and seed down. Do you actually bring that on the car? I suppose you bring that on the car. But it doesn't sound like you get much into an interceptor, though. So that's a bit strange. Anyway, you're driving down with a battle-ready Dodge Interceptor, and you are driving back with a truck. But of course, on the way there, which is a big challenge, you have to get there. You have to make sure you get more petrol, because obviously they didn't have much petrol to send with you. And so you only start with one can, and you have to find at least another two cans, I think, on the way, if I remember correctly, and to get to San Anglo. And there are challenges and obstacles in your path, including bandits on motorcycles and other cars. So I will start my fourth run into this book and see how it goes. One thing about this game, because of the way it is made, there sort of seems to be two main routes going south. So there's an eastern route and a western route, and you can sort of cross over between them at different points, which means my map is looking completely messy. So looks a bit like this. But I have tried to analyze it a bit. I haven't tidied it up yet, but I'm trying to analyze it a bit and see if I can find the right way going south. Now, last time I played through, the only thing stopping me from going further was that I was missing a plastic tube, and I do know where to get it. So I'm thinking I'm going to follow a similar route to what I did, certainly one of my last, or a combination of routes that I followed on my last few playthroughs. And because I know I'll be able to pick up some of the essential items that I need. Also, I'm thinking it may be possible to miss a bit where there's a guy from the council in New Hope has been kidnapped by bandits. His name is Sinclair, and there's a place where you can rescue him. And I'm thinking it is possibly possible to miss it, but you also pick up some wire cutters there that may come in useful later, I don't know yet. And so I will also rescue him this time, just to be sure. And also there was a viewer question. Somebody asked me what does happen if you stop at Joe's garage. So I will go to Joe's garage and see what happens there, even though that's not technically part of my playthrough. So I will just ignore any losses of life, limb, or stamina, or skill, or whatever happens there, just to show you what happens. So, without further ado, let's get started and play Freeway Fighter. Right, I am back here on my desk. I've got my book, got my pens, got my dice, got my character sheet, and some paper for making notes along the way. I've also got a map that's out of view now because it's just messy anyway, and I'll see what I can do as I get to places I've not mapped before. Probably I'll just ignore it a little bit for now. I've sort of tried to trace up, sort of make a note of the kind of routes I'm wanting to follow. So I sort of made a road sheet there. First of all, the adventure sheet. Now, I've noticed in this book there are several places where you test for skill. More so than you test for luck. There are some places for luck as well. Usually when you fail a luck roll, it doesn't mean instant death. In many cases, it means your car gets damaged for a horrendous amount of damage, actually. But not so many deaths. Skill, on the other hand, there are several places where testing skill and failing means dying. So skill is the most important thing. So I've been thinking, instead of, because I'm not actually trying to beat the dice so much for the for my stats. In these games, usually the fun of it is to find the way through, to solve it as a puzzle, because there are things you need to pick up that you will need. Sometimes essential things, other times it is things that will increase your survivability. And I'm thinking more of it in terms of a game by those terms. So I'm thinking I want to give myself a skill of 11, which is high but not maximum, because I do want to make the skill throws and then ignore it if I roll a 12, but just to show you what happens. And the same with luck. I'm thinking I will do 11 there too, or maybe I should do 12 for luck, because I will go down. Actually, skill will go down too, probably. And stamina doesn't matter as much, so I will roll for stamina. And I get a 10, which is 34. And of course, you do have the chance to regain some stamina with medkits, because the medkits, they give you +4 stamina as long as you use them when you're not in combat. Firepower and armor, of course, there will be some car battles where these things will be important. I don't think they're as important as skill, because skill is not just your skill at hand-to-hand fighting and fighting with a melee weapon or fighting with a gun. It's also your driving skill. Firepower and armor, of course, armor, how much a car can take before it's destroyed, is actually possibly more important than firepower, but I'll roll for these. I may re-roll them if it's terrible, but there you go. Firepower, yes, I will re-roll that, and I'll be happy with an 11. And armor, 7 plus 24, so that's 31. That is fine. I think you're starting with 1 can of fuel. 1 can of fuel. 4 missiles, 3 spikes, 2 oil, and 2 spare wheels, and also 200 credits. So that's your starting thing. Now I'll put this aside and bring it out whenever I need to make any changes to it. And a little sip of water. The air has been quite dry here the last few days, so my throat is a bit dry as well. Right. So I will start again. I did tell you this sort of introduction, really, about the virus and it's being 2022, and also the deal with San Anglo. So let's see. Right. I will start from number 1 again. The first thing to strike you as you cruise along the road is the speed with which everything has fallen into decay. You hadn't realized how much maintenance was needed to support civilization. All around buildings are falling into ruin, abandoned cars litter the roads in rusted disarray, grass and weeds have grown rampant everywhere, but nobody to hold them back, and packs of dogs and other wild animals roam freely. You stop at a small town some 15 kilometers from New Hope and switch off your engine. Suddenly it is deathly silent, apart from the eerie howl of a dog somewhere down the street. You are tempted to get out of the car to explore, but realize that this is an unnecessary risk. You are about to start your engine again when suddenly the sound of a shotgun breaks the silence. If you wish to get out of the car to investigate, turn to 126. If you would rather drive out of the town, turn to 34. Now, of course, I did this the first time, and if you do investigate, you find there is a nice guy called Johnson who just shot a wild dog or a feral dog, and he tells you that not to stop at Joe's garage, which is coming up next. So I don't need to know that again. Let's just say that if I did a proper walkthrough of this, I would probably include that bit, because it just feels like you should get that information in the correct way. So when I do my walkthrough, that will be part of it. I don't think there were any rolls or anything that will excuse me, that would happen there that would change the outcome of the game or your chances of surviving, apart from knowing not to stop at Joe's garage. So I'm going to 34. You're soon out of town, zigzagging around wrecked cars and fallen trees along the road. Further ahead, you can see that the road joins the main highway south. There is a small filling station at the junction named Joe's Garage. You stop, as you are intrigued by the hot rod parked around the side, looking clean and in running condition. A young girl suddenly comes out of the office, wearing a t-shirt and blue jeans. She smiles and says, "Hi, can I help you?" If you wish to talk to her, turn to 302. If you would rather drive up onto the highway, turn to 167. So this is where I will go to 167, but because somebody asks me, I'll just show you what happens if you do not go or just drive on. If you just ignore Johnson's advice and you see what happens. So I'm going to go to 302 now. This is not part of the game. You open the door and climb out of the interceptor. As you walk up to the girl, a man with a shaved head jumps out from behind one of the pumps, holding a crowbar, and shouts, "Surprise! Let's have your keys and cred. No funny business unless you want to get hurt." If you wish to give him your car keys and credits, turn to 209. If you would rather fight him with your knife, turn to 48. Now, obviously, if you give him your car, then that's the end of the game, so I will go to 48 and fight him. Gripping your knife tightly, you crouch down, waiting for the thug to make his move. Suddenly he screams and leaps at you. And he's got a skill of 7 and a stamina of 10, and this has used the hand-fighting rules to resolve this combat. Both your knife and the thug's crowbar reduce stamina by 2 points. If you win, turn to 138. If you fall unconscious, turn to 100. So hand combat rules means, let's see, what was it again? You do it until... let's see, I haven't done hand combat much. Most of my combats the last few times have been vehicle or shooting, actually. Normally it's 1, let's see. Yes, so whoever loses 6 stamina points first is knocked unconscious. Of course, I've got less than 6, then they would be dead, but yes. So, he's got a skill of 7, I've got a skill of 11. I'll just make a note of this now. So 710 versus my 1134. Not that it matters so much. So I have to go down. Right, and we're each doing 2 damage each time we hit. So he rolls a 12. And I roll a 2. Oh my. It's okay. So he gets the first hit, and I'm down, let's say 2 points down, because I'm not doing this for keeping the scores afterwards. He rolls 6. I roll a 7, so he's down by 2 points. He rolls a 5. I roll an 11, so he's down by 4 points. He rolls a 5. I roll a 7, so he's down by 6, and he's knocked unconscious, and therefore I win the fight. So, am I going to 138? You stagger back from the thug as he slumps to the floor. Just then the girl starts up the engine of the hot rod. In a cloud of burning rubber, she screeches up the road onto the highway and is gone. If you wish to chase her, turn to 75. If you would rather search the garage, turn to 146. I don't know, should I chase her? I probably should chase her, shouldn't I? Let's see, 75. As soon as you release the clutch, you hear a loud bang. A tire is blown. You curse and get out of the car. The girl had placed a small mine under your front wheel while you were fighting. The wheel is a wreck and you will have to put on a spare. See, you lost a spare wheel already. Lose one lock point. And you lost a lock point. You resolve not to be so keen to speak to strangers in the future and drive up onto the highway, turn to 167. So there you go. We didn't get anything from that. And my guess is exploring the garage wouldn't give you much either, because this is supposed to be something you're warned against. And I find that when in fighting fantasy, when somebody tells you something and they seem like honest people, it tends to be true. So Johnson, I think, was right not to do anything here. So these are just bandits trying to trick people. So there we go. I'm just ignoring the results of those things because that was just to show you. And I'm moving on to 167. Yes. Let's see. It sounds like, I mean, my throat is so dry, I should just take a throat lozenge. Right, I'm back, and sorry about that, and I'm going to 167. So here we are. Despite the hazard of having to avoid abandoned cars, the highway is wide enough for you to gather plenty of speed. It's exciting to drive so freely without fear of being hauled in by the police for violating some traffic regulation or other. You smile as your speed reaches 190 kilometers per hour, which is a terrible idea if you're trying to save petrol. If you're trying to save petrol and you're driving a really heavy car like an armored Dodge Interceptor, you want to drive at no more than 60, I suppose. But there you go. Maybe 80. Okay. But your joy is short-lived. You suddenly see a red Chevrolet heavily reinforced with steel plating coming straight towards you. Somebody is sitting in a small turret on the roof, a machine gunner. You think to yourself that maybe having to deal with the police in the old days wasn't so bad compared with what is coming at you now. You breathe in deeply and get ready to press the machine gun fire button. And now we're fighting a red Chevy and vehicle combat rules. So it's got firepower 8 and armor 15, and I've got 1131. So he rolls first. He rolls a 7. I roll 5, that's just me, and 1d6 of damage, so that is him down to 13. He rolls 7, I roll a 9, he takes in further die of damage, that's 12. He rolls a 6, I roll an 8, he takes 5 damage. He rolls a 4, I roll an 8, he takes 4 damage. He rolls a 7, I roll a 6, and he takes 3 damage, and he is destroyed. If you manage to destroy the Chevy in this vehicle combat, turn to 188. You stop your interceptor to examine the burning wreck. Who were these people and why did they attack you without warning? You shake your head and hit the accelerator, eager to reach your destination. You are passing a security truck and thinking about all the money inside it, which is now useless. When suddenly a voice comes through on your radio above the crackling static. It is one of New Hope's leaders. She tells you how a gang of bikers have just attacked New Hope, killing 8 people in the process. After a short battle, they were eventually beaten off. She warns you to be on the lookout for them, as they have kidnapped Sinclair, the council leader. You acknowledge the message and say goodbye. After an hour or so of driving without any further incident, you notice that your petrol gauge is dropping. The Interceptor is very heavy on petrol. And no wonder if you're driving at those kinds of speeds. You stop and pour the contents of the fuel canister into the tank, realizing that you will have to find some more petrol soon. A few kilometers further, and you know your luck has really run out. There must have been a car crash at the time of the disaster, which caused a huge tailback of now abandoned cars. It is impossible to continue along the highway. You reverse back to the last exit and drive off the highway. You must decide which way to head along the road which crosses over it. If you wish to drive east, turn to 341. If you wish to drive west, turn to 66. And did I make a note of where I'm going now? I am going east, 341. You pass an ambulance parked off the road to your right, but see no sign of life. If you wish to stop to investigate the ambulance, turn to 267. If you would rather keep driving east, turn to 22. And now I'm thinking... when you go to the ambulance, the ambulance is actually booby-trapped and there's a fight with someone, but is that going to be... I'm just wondering if it's safer not to now. Let's see if I can find... because you get into a gunfight, and if you lose a gunfight, your skill goes down, which is very risky. Or if you get injured in a gunfight. But very, very risky. I'm not sure how many places you actually can regain skill in this game. So it does sound like a big risk, especially considering how skill is so important. You want to avoid gunfights. I don't know. Is that clear? If you skill goes down when you're injured in a gunfight, do you get it back when you use a med pack? That's a good question. Let's see if it says something about that. I don't know, I can't really see anything about that yet. Vehicle combat. I'm not sure. Anyway, seems a bit risky, so I'm going to skip that. And I'm going to go to 22 and continue driving east. You flash past a road sign which shows a turning to the south immediately ahead. If you wish to drive south, turn to 311. If you'd rather keep cruising east, turn to 203. And I'll keep going east for now, because I'm trying to get to the place where the gang that holds Sinclair is. The road is open and wrecked cars are an infrequent hazard. The speedometer reads well above the maximum speed limit that used to control the road. But you know that there is no chance of getting a speeding ticket now, only of running out of fuel, which is why you shouldn't do that. Your enjoyment, however, is short-lived. A roadblock of upturned cars and trucks comes into view. You slow down and survey the scene, sensing danger. Will you fire a rocket at the roadblock, try to drive around the roadblock, or turn around and drive back? Not driving back. To drive around the roadblock, you're actually just helping out whoever is trying to ambush you here. So I will fire a rocket at the roadblock. And just to make a note of on my character sheet, that is, let's see, let's get a bit more light over here now. I already used a can of fuel, and I'm using one rocket. I'm turning to 372, but technically I don't use the rocket until I get to 372, I guess. Reaching forward, you press the rocket launcher button on the control panel. The interceptor shakes as the rocket is fired, and the explosion which follows immediately is loud and blinding. When the smoke clears, you see that the roadblock no longer exists. Suddenly you hear the roar of a motorcycle engine starting up and see two leather-clad armed riders appear from behind a bush and blaze up the road through the hole in the roadblock. passenger turns and fires a warning shot at you as the bike races away. If you wish to drive after them, turn to 95. If you would rather let them get away, turn to 309. I think I'm going to drive after them. I do believe there was something they had that might come in useful in one of their saddlebags on their motorcycles. Before you have time to catch them, they turn around and drive straight towards you. The machine gun above the headlamp blazes red and white as it spits out bullets at you. Press the accelerator down hard on the floor and race the interceptor towards them, your finger clutching the machine gun trigger. A motorcycle, only one. Okay, well, so 6, 9, and I am 11, 31. That does sound like it should be easy, and if I say that, I'm going to roll terribly now. So let's see. He rolls an 8, I roll 2. That is actually me getting 1 damage. Okay. He rolls a 6, I roll a 9. That is 1 damage for him as well. 7 and 4, that is down to 4 armor on his motorcycle. 11 and 3, so that's me again, taking 2 damage. 5, that's me winning, and he is down to 0. And 249 is my next port of call, a paragraph of call. You walk over to the wrecked bike, carrying your revolver in one hand and the med kit in the other. One of the men is dead and the other is barely alive. You kick his pistol away from him and see if he can be saved. Oh, what a goody two-shoes you are. He opens his eyes, smiles, and says, "Fat Jack and the boys will get you for this." Then he slumps back and is still. Your medkit cannot help him. You check the bike over and notice a locked side pannier. If you would like to open the pannier, turn to 206. If you'd rather head off east without wasting any more time, turn to 163. I'm going to open the pannier, because I think there was something in there that could be useful. So you fire at the lock on the pannier, the 3 shots, and it's open. Inside you find a pair of handcuffs, a map, and 200 credits. So that is me now with 400 credits and a map. Where am I now? Oh, yes. Let's see. Yes. You look at the map. Oh, handcuffs. Handcuffs. Cuffs. Okay. So, you look at the map. There is a red circle drawn around New Hope. Obviously, these men came from the same gang that attacked New Hope. Well, most likely. A small town named Rockville is marked with a red cross and is not too far southeast from where you are now. No doubt it is the temporary home of the bikers. You decide to change the wheel on your interceptor before any other bikers' friends arrive. Oh, why am I changing my wheel? Did it say my wheel was broken? Or is that a typo somewhere where it was meant to say it was broken? I'm a bit curious now. Let's see. It didn't say anything about a wheel breaking, did it? Let's see. If I go back to 203 just to have a look now. Yes, so if I try to drive around the roadblock, just see what happens. Aha. So if you try to drive around the roadblock, a mine is attached to the wheel arch on your interceptor. But, so that's only supposed to happen if you try to drive around, not if you fire the missile like I did. So, that is a typo. I don't need to change my wheel. So, yes. Only if you try to drive around. So, I'll just make a note of that. So, 206 and say if wheel broken. If wheel broken, change wheel. Yes, so I suppose there are typos in most of these books, but That's quite a minor one, but of course, again, if you do this and you don't think about it and you suddenly run out of spare wheels and then you lose the game, it is potentially game-breaking, so not supposed to lose a wheel there. Right, so I'm going to 346. Fortunately, the wheel hub is not damaged and you are able to fit the spare wheel quite quickly. You are soon charging down the road, shaking your head at the mad world you are forced to live in. You soon arrive at another signpost, which points down a narrow dirt track towards a town called Rockville. If you wish to drive south to Rockville, turn to 157. If we would rather keep heading east, turn to 45. And I wanted to go to Rockville because that's where Sinclair is. So I'm going to 157. The dirt track is rough and bumpy, and you realize that people for miles around will see the dust that the speeding interceptor is throwing up. Well, why are you speeding then? Nevertheless, you are determined to reach Rockville. Suddenly you see a blinding flash on top of a boulder in the distance. Test your luck. If you're lucky, turn to 222. If you're unlucky, turn to 315. My luck is 11. I roll an 11, and I am lucky. Indeed, my luck is down to 10. And I'm going to 222. Somebody has fired a bazooka at you, but the shell explodes harmlessly a few meters to your left. Turn to 53. Good thing they don't have Stinger rockets or something like that. I'll be in trouble. You press down on the accelerator, steering the interceptor towards your attackers, but before you can reach them, they jump onto motorbikes and race off. If you wish to chase after them, turn to 78. If you would rather reverse, drive back to the road and turn right to head east, turn to 45. Well, I'm still chasing them because I want to get to Rockville. So I'm going to 78. The bikes are suited to driving along the dirt track and you're unable to catch up with them. In the distance, you see a cluster of houses, which must be Rockville. The bikes drive straight towards the houses and disappear from view. As you get closer, you hear the sound of gunfire, which seems to be coming from the nearest farmhouse. Will you fire a rocket at the farmhouse, keep on driving towards the houses, reverse, drive back to the road, and turn right to head east? I see you've got lots of chances to turn back here, as if the game is trying to tell you something. But I know that I think last time I kept... Did I keep on driving? I think I kept on driving last time, and it turned out I needed to fire a rocket at the farmhouse anyway, after getting a lot of damage to my armor, to the armor of my car. So I'm going to fire a rocket right away, leaving me with 2 rockets left, and go to 199. It doesn't seem like you have many rockets left over for vehicle combat in this game. Still mustn't forget that I can use them like that. The farmhouse is an easy target and the rocket does not miss. The explosion destroys the farmhouse, sending fragments of brick and wood flying through the air. When the dust has settled, you drive cautiously ahead, one finger against the machine gun trigger. Stop alongside the burning farmhouse but see no signs of life. You turn off the engine and wind down the window of the interceptor. So it seems like the bikers, they went into the farmhouse and actually managed to blow them to smithereens as well. You hear the desperate cry of a man calling for help. If you wish to get out of the car to investigate, turn to 262. If you would rather drive south out of the town, turn to 353. I'm going to investigate. So here we are. You walk over towards the sound of the cry for help and find that it is coming from inside a shack attached to the general store. You ask who is inside the shack. It's Sinclair, New Hope's council leader. You search around and find an iron bar to prise open the lock of the door. Soon Sinclair is free. Add 1 luck point, and I am back on 11. Sinclair tells you about the raid on New Hope and his kidnapping. He asks you to radio to New Hope to tell them that he will return by motorbike as soon as possible. There are 2 bikes parked in front of the general store, of which he chooses the old Harley-Davidson. Oh, very old school. Thanking you for your help, he waves goodbye and rolls off north. Will you search the general store, search the nearest house, or drive off south? I'm going to start with the general store. I think, was there something in the general store? Oh, yes, that's where I'll find a can of petrol, without which I will lose the game. So inside the general store, you find a can of meat, which you greedily devour, not having eaten such a rare delicacy for a long time. Add 2 stamina points. Of course, by this time in the game, you haven't really had much chance to lose stamina points, but there you go. More important, you find a full canister of petrol, which you stow inside your interceptor. If you have not done so already, you may search the nearest house. If you would rather drive off south, turn to 353. I'm going to search the house as well. Although I believe there was a trap in there. So you open the front door of the house and step inside. Leading off the hallway, there are 2 doors facing each other. If you wish to open the door on the left, turn to 185. If you wish to open the door on the right, turn to 72. And now this is where I'm trying to remember which door I'm supposed to open. I think it's the door on the left. It should say on my map, if I can find it now. Yes, it's a left door. I made a big red mark on the right one saying do not go in there. There's a trap. So I'm going to 185. And the door opens into a room that has recently been occupied. There are unfinished cups of coffee on the table and the front wheel of a motorcycle propped up against the wall, its inner tube lying on the floor. Somebody was obviously in the process of mending a puncture. There is also a toolkit on the table, inside which you find a pair of heavy-duty wire cutters, which I think sounds like a very useful item. Oops, wire cutters. I'm not sure if I'll need them yet, but maybe one day. Yes. If you have not done so already, you may open the door to the room opposite, or you may leave the house. I'm going to leave the house because if you open the other door, there is a crossbow trap, so you get injured. Neither of the... Oh, hang on. Did I look at the right one now? 246, yes. Not 242. There we are. If you have not done so already, you may search the general store. Otherwise, there is nothing else to do except drive off south. Well, I suppose there are other things, but nothing else that makes sense. You could just sit down and ponder your life for a moment. The dirt track twists and turns through the open countryside, but at last you come to a T-junction where the dirt track is crossed by a good road. You look down it both ways, but do not see any vehicles or signs of life. If you wish to head east, turn to 61. If you wish to head west, turn to 371. And now I have to see in my notes which direction I thought was the most useful. And my notes say to head west. So I'm heading west on 371. We drive a long way west, passing only one junction on your right, a narrow road leading north. At last, you come to a T-junction where you can turn left in order to drive south towards San Anglo. Turn to 225, and I'll be needing my petrol soon, I think. The road cuts through overgrown fields, but there are no obstructions on the road. You check your mileometer to see how far you have come and see that the petrol gauge is reading empty again. If you have picked up a full fuel canister recently, turn to 197. If you have not picked one up, turn to 364. And 364, that's your universal running out of fuel, your game is over paragraph, which is referred to several times whenever you check your petrol. So it's a sort of a catch-all paragraph for losing the game. There's 2 catch-all paragraphs for losing the game. There's one for the petrol, and there's another one for being knocked unconscious, which is 100. So there are 2 of those. Save space by not having a unique one for each one, I guess. Also, there is a bit of cut and paste in some of the descriptions as well for the road, but yeah, that's fine. It still has a nice atmosphere, this book, I think. It doesn't matter if it's some little bits are repetitive. Anyway, 197 is where I'm going because I did pick up a can of petrol, and that's me out of petrol again. You stop the car and get out to empty the fuel canister into the petrol tank. The canister does not hold much petrol, and you realize that you will have to be on the lookout for more if you hope to reach San Anglo. By the time you set off again, it is early evening, and you watch the setting sun through the right-hand window. Soon it will be dark and there is a new decision to make. Would you drive off the road and sleep inside the Interceptor? That always sounds like the safest thing, doesn't it? Find a building to spend the night inside, or drive on through the night. That also doesn't sound like a good idea, actually, to be honest. Just like in Return to Firetop Mountain, walking through the night rather than trying to find a place to sleep was also not a good idea. So I'm not sure if this is a general thing they do in these books where walking into the night is a bad idea. And sometimes maybe you can be tricked by that and think that, oh yeah, I got that choice again in another book, and you think, yeah, well, Ian Livingstone, he always does that thing where walking through the night is a bad thing, or driving in this case, or flying if you're in one of the science fiction ones. And you think to yourself that, and then at one point, of course, it's going to be a double bluff, isn't it? And walking through the night is going to be the safest thing to do. And going to sleep somewhere will make you just kill you off. I'll get to that someday, I'm sure, because I've got all these nice books to go through now. Anyway, that aside, yes, I want to go inside the Interceptor. I'm quite sure. I'll just double check what it says on my thing. Yes, it does say that I should sleep in the Interceptor, which means that I've decided that is the safest thing to do. You pull off the road and park the Interceptor behind a low wall. When you turn off the engine, you notice how deathly quiet it is and wonder if anybody heard you stop. You eat your food quickly, but wait until it is completely dark before settling down to sleep. In the morning, you wake early feeling refreshed. Add 2 stamina points, and of course I haven't lost any yet. And at this point, there's still very few places you could have lost it. Oh, actually, there is... In the beginning, when you meet Johnson, if you don't trust him and you decide to attack or do stuff like that, I think there is some... I think I actually looked a little bit at that, because I would never do that now. I had a look at it, and it looks like you might lose some stamina there. So if you were foolish enough to do that in the beginning, you do have some options now for getting some back. Anyway. You start up the Interceptor and are soon heading south. Turn to 254. The countryside is picturesque in the early morning light, but you are unaware of the dangers ahead. The road has been mined by country outlaws, waiting to rob anybody passing through. Roll 1 die. If you roll 1, 2, or 3, turn to 129. Roll 4, 5. If you roll 4, 5, or 6, turn to 101. And this is one of those 50-50 chance things where failing is actually going to really damage your car, because most times when the car gets hit by something explosive like a mine or a rocket or a grenade, a bazooka, things like that, it loses 2d6, 2 dice worth of armor, which is quite a lot. Even though you have I've got 31 to start with, it's going down really quickly, and there aren't that many places where you can increase it. There's one repair shop you get to later, and I'm not. I think that might be the only one. So you could actually easily die in this game by the car being wrecked, and yeah. So I think this is again a. Even though it doesn't seem like it so much, this game, I think the survivability is going to go down really fast if your skill is low, and also, well, I suppose, yeah, and also if you have a bit of bad luck with some of the dice rolls. So anyway, I'm rolling, and I'm rolling a 6. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or not. I think that's probably the bad outcome, but let's have a look and see. No, that's a good outcome. I couldn't remember which was which there. Did I make a note of it? I actually didn't make a note of it. Miraculously, you drive through the minefield without triggering off any of the mines. Add 1 luck point, which I don't need at the moment, which is okay. Quite unaware of your lucky escape, you continue. Well, I am aware of it in this case. You continue your journey south, turn to 303. Well, actually, both times I've been through here, I've been lucky. So I'm going to go to 303. Let's see, yes. As the morning wears on, it becomes very hot, and the further south you travel, you notice a change in the vegetation. The overgrown fields turn into scrubland, and it won't be long before you are driving across the desert. A few miles further down the road, you arrive at a major junction. If you wish to turn left to head east, turn to 140. If you would rather keep driving south, turn to 189. And here I am going to go south, I think, if my notes are reliable, which they may or may not be. Now, a little caveat, of course, I've not looked everywhere in this game, so there are a few bits and bobs and options I haven't taken yet. Because the convolutedness of the map, it's a little bit hard to find them. But I will go through all the... Once I've done this game to my satisfaction and I've gone through it and I sort of know what I'm doing, I will map the whole book. I'm going to I'll make a little video about that because I actually found a tool that is useful for doing that now, which makes it a lot easier. But still, I think this is quite a... Even though I did actually start doing it for the bits that I've seen, and it's... Even if it is easier to do it that way, it still gets a bit convoluted because of the driving east and west a few times and sort of driving there and turning back. And of course, all these things lead to different paragraphs. So while this is actually quite an easy game to make a normal map of, basically a map showing the roads and the different things that happen along the way, once you make a map like I do, where you put in all the numbers, it gets very messy. So a geographical map of this game is actually quite easy to make, I would imagine. So I might make both because of that, but I'll see. Now I'm distracting myself now from the game. So I was going to go to... Where was I going to go again? 189, yes. Leading off the road on your right is a rough road which is marked with several sets of tire tracks. Now this is where I'm soon getting to the race, which is very important. That is to say, I think it's important because there may or may not be another way to get petrol, but one way to get petrol definitely is to win the race. I haven't explored the other options, so I'll do that for another day maybe. The tracks look as if they were made quite recently. If you wish to drive down the rough road, turn to 24. If you would rather stay on course for San Anglo, turn to 207. Now, I am going to go 24 because if I go towards San Anglo, I will soon run out of petrol and lose. So you drive along the bumpy road until you come to a wooden gate which bars the way. The gate is covered with barbed wire and a heavily tattooed, bare-chested man sits casually astride it, brandishing a machine gun. Or what looks more like a submachine gun, of course. Not a machine gun. Submachine gun. Come on. In a gruff voice he says, "I don't recognize you. Which gang are you from?" "Black Rats," you reply on the spur of the moment. "Never heard of them," the man replies. "Still, we'll race against anybody. Follow the road down to the burnt-out house and you'll see the other cars parked there. The first race will start in about 5 minutes. There are some pretty heavy bets being laid today. Should be lots of fun. If you wish to drive through the gate, turn to 300. If you would rather reverse quickly and drive back to the main road, head south, turn to 59. I'm not a chicken, I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to go down and have a race. Following the instructions of the tattooed man, you drive down the dirt road to the burnt-out house. 4 customized cars are parked in a row, each sprouting a multitude of weapons. A group of people stands in heated discussion, although they all turn to watch you park. So, yeah, if people watch you park, you better make sure you do it properly. You walk over to the group and ask them about the forthcoming race. A small man with a scar running the length of his face smiles and says, "Rookie, eh? Never been to a blitz race before? Listen, it's quite simple. Challenge any of us to race. You have to bet 200 credits, but if you win, the prize is a big can of petrol." Yeah, if you win, that is. The man then bursts into laughter and the others join in. If you wish to challenge him to a blitz race, turn to 240. If you'd rather just spectate, turn to 224. I'm going to race him. And you take 200 credits out of your pocket and thrust them towards the man with a scar. He snatches them from you and says, "There's a sucker born every minute. Get in your car. Let's do it. We race for 8 kilometers down the dirt road. You turn around at the White House and race back. And remember, there are no holds barred in the blitz race except bullets and rockets." You climb inside the Interceptor, start it up, and crawl forward to the starting line. Your opponent draws alongside you in his bright yellow Ford. You see that it is armed with 2 machine guns and a grenade launcher. A girl standing in between the 2 cars raises a white towel into the air and then suddenly pulls it down to signal the start of the race. Roll 2 dice. If the total is the same as or less than your skill, turn to 3. If the total is greater than your skill, turn to 148. So there we are, rolling against 11, and yes. I'm going to 3, so that means I'll be pulling ahead a little bit in the beginning. You stamp down on the accelerator and release the clutch at the same time. The back wheels spin, throwing up dust, but you race off ahead of the yellow Ford. In your rearview mirror, you see the anger on your opponent's face as he drives to the limit along the narrow road to catch up with you. The Ford must be supercharged. It accelerates up behind you and rams your car at high speed. Test your luck, which is now 11. I rolled an 8, so that is me being lucky. And I'm down again to 10. So 354. The Interceptor swerves to the left, but you steer into the skid and keep the car under control. You have to think quickly to decide what tactics to use. Will you accelerate away or brake hard to let the Ford pass you? Let's see. Should I brake? I can't remember what I did last time. I think, did I accelerate last time? I'll try to brake this time. Maybe I can, yeah. Okay, 27. I'm going to brake. You slam on the brakes and screech almost to a halt. The Ford swerves around you and is soon accelerating away from you. As you are not allowed to use your forward-firing weapons, you decide to ram the Ford. How can you ram the Ford if it's accelerating away from you? But yeah, there you go. 139. I'm going to try it anyway. The Ford slows down for a bend in the road. That's how. But you keep your foot down hard on the accelerator. You crash into the back of the Ford, but only succeed in damaging the Interceptor. Lose 2 armor points. So 29. There we are. The Ford has steel-plated crash bars built to withstand ramming. You realize... Oh, hang on. Didn't I lose some... I lost some armor before, didn't I? So actually I got 25 armor points. Yeah, I forgot to make a note of it from the last vehicle combat, didn't I? Yes. Yeah. Yes. Lose 2 armor points. The Ford has steel-plated crash bars built to withstand ramming. You realize that you will have to overtake the Ford in order to use your rear missile weapons. As though he has read your mind, the Ford's driver starts to swing the car from side to side to stop you passing. It will take considerable maneuvering skills to pass him. Roll 2 dice if the total is so testing your skill, basically. So I'm rolling against 11. I succeeded, so that is going to paragraph 8. You make as if to pass the Ford on its left-hand side, but suddenly swerve to overtake on the right. It is a successful maneuver, and you are able to accelerate away from your opponent. So 340. Okay. So I was ahead of him to start with. Why didn't I use a missile then? Or something else. You decide that it's time to use a weapon against the chasing car. So you look at the buttons on the dashboard. If you wish to empty a canister of iron spikes onto the road, turn to 318. If you would rather spray a film of oil over the road, turn to 213. Now this is a dirt road, so I'm still thinking using oil is just a complete waste, as it will just soak into the ground and do nothing. So, given those 2 choices, it definitely will have to be spikes. So, 318. You press the button on the dashboard which releases the canister. You watch it bounce along the road as the Ford speeds towards it. Test your luck again, and now it's 10, so I'm rolling a 6. My luck is going down like crazy, which is very dangerous. I'm lucky, and I go to 63. The canister bursts open and spreads iron spikes all over the road, but the Ford is equipped with a powerful underbody air dip, which blows all but one of the iron spikes off the road. The only damage done is a slow puncture to one of its heavy-duty tires, which slows it down just enough for you to accelerate out of range of its grenade launcher for the moment. Up ahead, you see the White House, where you must turn around. You jam on the brakes and turn the steering wheel sharply to the left. You reverse back a few meters in a cloud of churned up dust and then slam the gear stick forward into first to race back to the finishing line. The Ford makes an equally swift U-turn and is soon just behind you. It powers alongside you and the driver pulls down on his steering wheel in order to sideswipe the interceptor. He looks set to determine the outcome of this duel by ramming. So, yellow Ford, firepower 8, armor 16, and a successful ram will reduce the car's armor by 2 points. If you survive 4 attack rounds, turn to 334. So here we are. He's got 8, 16, and I got 1131. And we are doing 4 battle rounds, and I have to survive them. Of course, there's no way I can get him down to 0 to crush him now, but so he rolls 7, I roll 12. So that's armor down by 2 for him. Not that it really matters, probably. He rolls a 4, I roll a 9, so his armor is down by another 2. He rolls an 8, and I roll an 8, so that's his armor down by 2 again. And last round, he rolls an 8, and I roll an 8, so he's down to 8, and that is the side-swiping contest over. And I go to 334. There is probably about 1 kilometer to go before you cross the finishing line, and you are still locked in combat alongside the Ford. Up ahead, the road narrows to 1 lane to cross a stone bridge spanning a stream. If you wish to keep your accelerator pressed to the floor, turn to 35. If you'd rather ease off the accelerator and allow the Ford to take the lead, turn to 239. And I'm thinking if I do that, he is going to win, so I will have to keep my cool and just keep driving, keeping the iron foot where it belongs. It is a battle of nerves between yourself and the driver of the Ford. The 2 cars race abreast towards the bridge. Roll 1 die and add the number to your skill, making a note of the total. Roll the die again and add the number to the Ford driver's skill of 8. So this is a skill versus skill test. There are a few of these in this book. So I'm rolling 3, which totals 14, and he rolls 6, which is a total of 14, which probably means I'm going to lose the lose this now. So this is my first failure, actually. I'm just going to make a note of that. 1, I'm putting that. Because I need to win this one, I think, to get further on. So I will have to pretend now that I'll just see what happens, and I'll pretend that I won afterwards. But this would have been the end of my game, I think. So I'll just go first show you what happens if I go to 51 now. You're only a few meters away from the bridge when your nerves crack. You brake hard and watch the Ford race over the bridge ahead of you. Pressing down on the accelerator, you try to catch up. You see the finishing line ahead no more than 200 meters away and realize that the race is lost. The Ford crosses the finishing line a car's length ahead of the Interceptor, lose 1 luck point and turn to 232. So that is going to be the end of the game, because you will not have petrol and you can't drive any further when you go a little bit further south. So I'll pretend that I won. I got a 379. When you're only a few meters from the bridge, the Ford driver's courage deserts him and he brakes hard, allowing you to cross ahead of him. Frustrated by your iron nerve, your opponent desperately tries to pass you before you cross the finishing line. The acceleration of the Ford is blistering because of its supercharger, and the cars are soon locked bumper to bumper. You see the finishing line ahead no more than 200 meters away and realize that the Ford will pull out of your slipstream any second now to pass you. You must block the Ford. Will you swerve to the left or to the right? I made a note of this, didn't I? Because I guessed correctly last time. And I am swerving to the left. Where I would have done if I hadn't already lost the race. Suddenly the Ford swings out to the left to try to overtake, but you have anticipated the driver's move and block him successfully. Add 1 luck point, which I'll need if I'm to succeed. You maintain your lead, and as you cross the finishing line, the Interceptor is ahead of the Ford by half a car's length. You have won the Blitz race. Turn to 111. A small crowd of spectators gathers round the Interceptor to congratulate you. The Ford driver climbs out of his car, slams the door shut, and stomps away. Looks like he's a bad loser, says one of the others, and it's the first time I've ever seen him lose. The girl who started the race hands you your prize of the can of petrol, which you pack inside the Interceptor. It'll be about half an hour before the next race starts, so we're going to sit down over by the trees. Will you join us? She says. You decline her offer as you are keen to carry on with your mission. They walk away, leaving you to check over the Interceptor for any serious damage. While you are bending over the engine, you feel a tap on the shoulder. You look up and see the tattooed man who was sitting on the wooden gate. Which gang did you say you belong to? He asks in a hostile tone. Will you reply, black cats, black rats, or black bats? And I presume that if you say the wrong thing now, you'll be in trouble, because he'll remember that you said black rats the first time. So there we are. I thought that's what you said, but it's just that I've never heard of them before. I hope they aren't all as good at racing as you are. I expect I'll see you again. I'm going to join the others now, says the tattooed man. Much to your relief, he walks away, leaving you to drive off down the rough road to the main road where you turn right to head south, turn to 207. So that is one hurdle down. Or, well, it would have been if I'd survived it, but there we go. You flash past a handwritten sign which reads, Pete makes engines sweet, 1 mile to the left. You slow down as you approach a stone building with a corrugated iron workshop attached to it, which has the word Sparkplug Pete's painted on a billboard on top of the roof. There are a few cars parked on the forecourt. As you come to a halt, a thin, pale man appears from the workshop wearing an oily blue mechanic's overall and a baseball cap. He waves and says, Nice car. Pretty fast, I guess, but not as fast as old Pete can make it. If you are interested, I'd like payment in credits and goods. I'll do a good job for you. If you wish to stop to let the mechanic modify your engine, turn to 28. If you would rather refuse his offer politely and continue your journey south, turn to 88. I will actually do the modification this time. It's not long before the green vegetation... Hang on, did I look at the wrong one? I think I looked at the wrong one now. And let's see... Yep. I was going to... 28. Sorry, not 82. Okay. You drive onto Pete's forecourt and park the Interceptor inside the workshop. Pete quickly examines the engine and says that the acceleration of the Interceptor could be improved by the addition of a supercharger. He tells you that the cost will be 100 credits plus some medicine. If you're able to and wish to give Pete 100 credits and 2 packs from your med kit, turn to 141. So, okay, I did actually spend 200 credits on the race, and then I've got another 100 here, so I'm down to 100 credits. And 2 med packs. Right. Yes. So, right, turn to 141. You settle down to relax in the shade while Pete busily sets to work on the engine. He taps and bangs away, whistling happily. You drift in and out of light sleep. 2 hours later, he slams down the reinforced engine cover and says, Okay, she's ready to roll. After giving Pete the 100 credits and 2 packs of medical supplies, you start up the Interceptor and accelerate away as fast as possible. You can feel the extra acceleration in your back and smile contentedly. Pete has done a good job. Add 1 luck point and turn to 88. Luck back where it belongs. It's not long before the green vegetation gives way to more barren terrain, with tufts of dry grass dotted on top of the stony brown earth. You soon arrive at the edge of the desert, where the road is joined by another main road leading east. If you wish to turn left, turn to 177. If you'd rather keep going south, turn to 271. And now I have to look at my thing again. It says to go south is my recommended route at the moment. The landscape turns to reddish-brown as you drive further into the desert. The road runs south straight as an arrow and is virtually clear of abandoned cars. As you drive along, something you recognize catches your eye. It is an overturned Interceptor which must have veered off the road and rolled over after its driver died at the wheel. If you wish to stop to see if there are any spares worth taking, turn to 166. If you'd rather keep on driving, turn to 13. So this is where I find my plastic tubing, though at a little cost. I'm getting to that soon. Right. Yes. So this is where I... Oh, sorry, I lost my way now. Yes, 253. The interceptor here is where I find the plastic tubing, but of course, well, I'll get to that in a moment. Hang on, I'm going to 166. There is one wheel in reasonable condition remaining on the interceptor. The tire is flat, but can easily be inflated again with a can of Flat-U-Fix. It does not take long to remove the wheel and store it inside your own car. If you wish to look inside the crash car, turn to 253. If you would rather continue your journey south, turn to 13. I'm going to look inside the car. You pull open the driver's door and reach inside to open the glove compartment. Suddenly you hear a rattling sound and realize with horror that you have disturbed the nest of a rattlesnake. The snake strikes and bites your arm, emptying deadly poison into your veins. You still possess a pack of medicine from your medkit, turn to 2. I do indeed. Otherwise I would have died there. You run to your car and tear open a pack of medicine from your medkit. You inject yourself with snakebite serum and dress the wound. However, the treatment does not increase your stamina, which is fine. It merely prevents the poison from killing you. You recover sometime later, but are nevertheless weakened by the ordeal. Lose 1 skill point and 2 stamina points. Now this is where I'm wondering if, because I'm losing skill now, whether there is another way to get petrol that will allow you not to lose skill. So there is one path that I haven't explored that may do that. I'll have a look at that in some other playthrough if this doesn't go well in the end. So 2 stamina points, which isn't much. I'm not at 32. Yes. You walk back to the overturned interceptor and shoot the snake with vengeful glee. Inside the glove compartment, you find a few meters of coiled plastic tubing, which is the one I was looking for last time. I needed to siphon off some petrol from a truck, which leads me to another question. Why would a truck have petrol and not diesel? I don't know, maybe in 2022, or at least in the future 2022 from 1985, they did use petrol in trucks, but of course diesel does make more sense, but there you go. Anyway, maybe my interceptor is multi-fuel and can use diesel and petrol. Doesn't make any sense either, but in any case, yes, there we are. With your arm still throbbing painfully, you drive off south again, turn to 13. In your rearview mirror, you see a motorbike and sidecar steadily closing up on you. The passenger is holding a machine gun mounted on the nose of the sidecar. He reminds you of early pilots with his goggles and a leather flying cap. Both men are wearing back scarves over their mouths to keep the wind-blown sand out of their lungs. When they are no more than 50 meters behind, they signal their intention by firing a burst from the machine gun at the interceptor. Lose 1 armor point. So, yeah, I lost 1 armor point, and I have the option of dropping spikes, using oil, or return fire. I'm gonna... what was it worked here? With oil, was it? Is that what I did last time? Let me see. I had a note of this as well. Spikes. Well, I made a note that spikes worked, so I'm going to use spikes. So 127. You press the release button on the dashboard and watch the canister bounce along the road behind you. It suddenly bursts open, scattering the pointed iron spikes all over the road. Roll 1 die. If you roll between 1 and 4, turn to 373. I did. I don't know if that's bad or good. Probably just have to fight them anyway. The motorbike and sidecar went straight over the iron spike, shredding 2 other tires. The vehicle swerves off the road and rolls over in the sand. In a matter of seconds, they are out of sight. Turn to 96. The kilometers roll by, so that was sorted out quite easily then. Just have to remove my spikes, leaving just 1 can left. Yes, the kilometers roll by and the petrol gauge is reading almost empty again. If you're carrying a full can of petrol inside the interceptor, I am, turn to 180. If you have not acquired one recently, turn to 364. So this is where I'm using my petrol that I won in the race. Is it not? Yes. So I am going to 180, and again 364, the catch-all for running out of petrol. You stop the car and pour the contents of the can into the petrol tank. You know that you do not have enough fuel to reach San Anglo and wonder where you will find some more in this desert wilderness. It is a depressing thought which weighs on your mind as you set off again. Turn to 243. I just call this bad planning because, well, I suppose it wouldn't be much of a game otherwise, but it could be for other reasons. But surely you would plan to have enough fuel to get all the way, even if it meant having to take fuel away from some other things in the settlement. On the right-hand side of the road, you see an abandoned police car, half covered by a drift of sand. If you wish to stop to see if there is anything of use to you inside the car, turn to 109. If you would rather keep driving south, turn to 49. I seem to remember that in order to get into the police car and get something interesting, you needed a crowbar, which I do not have. I think I skipped the bit or went another direction so that I do not have that now. So, yes, I'm just going to skip that now. If you go into the police car with a crowbar, you find a bulletproof vest, which gives you 1 skill back. So that is the skill point I've lost. So maybe there is a way where I can get the crowbar as well. I'll have to look at that later. But for the moment, my path through the game doesn't include both the crowbar and the other stuff that I've done. So anyway. Right, let's see, where am I now? Yes. Go to 109. Let's see. Whoever was driving the car must have taken everything with them when they set off on foot. Oh, hang on, I wasn't supposed to examine it, was I? I'll just do this. Whoever was driving the car must have taken everything with them when they set off on foot after running out of petrol. You walk around to the back of the car and try to open the boot, but find that it is locked. If you have a crowbar and wish to prise the boot open, turn to 277. If you'd rather give up on the police car and continue your journey south, turn to 49. So I'm going to go to 49 because I don't have the crowbar, and even though I do cheat sometimes with dice rolls and things, one thing I will never cheat on is using items I haven't found. So I think that is the wrong kind of cheating for these game books. Parked in the middle of the road ahead of you is a bizarre-looking vehicle. It looks like a pickup truck which has been converted to resemble a Roman chariot. It even has scythes attached to its wheels. A huge bare-chested man wearing a gladiatorial helmet which covers his face is standing at the back of the truck holding onto a double-barreled machine gun. He signals to his driver to drive forward into battle. You have no choice but to fight this New Age gladiator. And he's got quite a strong opponent, 915. And I'm 1124. So that is not a huge margin. And I'm wondering, I have 2 missiles left, whether I should use a missile, actually, just to get him out of the way, because I think that if I get damaged any further, that could be a bit risky. I'm going to just use a missile right away. and blow him out of the water. So that is an option. Then I'm going to 91. You press on south as quickly as possible and switch on the radio, hoping to establish contact with San Anglo. However, no voices are audible above the crackling static. You decide to leave it on anyway, in case somebody tries to make contact with you. After driving a further 15 kilometers, you come to another junction in the road. Somebody has left a sign there which reads engine and body repairs in crude writing and shows an arrow pointing east. I believe the repair cost did it cost £200? Or 200 credits, rather. Not pounds. If it costs 200, yes, it does cost 200. I don't have 200 because I got a supercharger. So I suppose if you don't get a supercharger, you would have enough credits to repair. In which case, you could fight the. I don't know, but I think you would be okay using a missile for at least one vehicle combat. Anyway, so if you will, I'm going to keep going south. I'm just going to ignore the repair shop for now. For this time, rather. Not for now. I can't go back here. Did I say 300? Did I look at the right one now? Hang on, I'm mixing up my papers over here. Let's see, chariot. Oh, hang on. Did I look at the wrong? Let's just go back now just to be sure I'm on the right paragraph. I'm gonna head east actually. It looks like that's what I have made a note of, even though I'm not repairing. Set back about 30 meters from the road is a small white building which is completely surrounded by cars in various stages of assembly. Wheels, doors, bumpers, axles, engines, gearboxes, and seats are strewn everywhere. And in the middle of it all is a man working away at one car. He is busy using an oxyacetylene torch on a door panel, causing sparks to fly everywhere. He is so engrossed in his work that he doesn't hear you arrive. You wish to talk to him about repairing the interceptor, turn to 15. You'd rather drive on, turn to 259, so I think actually that's the better road past here now. Ahead in the distance looms a range of hills. As you arrive at the foot of the hills, you see that the road passes under them via a tunnel. Unfortunately, there is a bus blocking the entrance. You stop the car and walk up to the bus to see whether or not it can be started and moved out of the way. The driver's door suddenly opens and a masked man jumps down onto the road, pointing a gun at you. To pass through this tunnel, you must either pay me a toll of 200 credits or engage me in a pistol duel. It says in a very matter-of-fact tone. If you wish to pay the toll, turn to 369. I don't have the credits. So I will do the duel. So I'm going to 291. The masked man reaches into the cabin of the bus and brings out a mahogany box. Inside are two magnificent pistols. He places one bullet in each hand and says, "Choose your weapon." You pick up one pistol and balance it in your hand to get a feel for its weight. You both then stand back to back, and the man tells you to walk 10 paces, turn and fire when ready. You breathe in deeply and count out loud the 10 paces walked. You then turn and see the masked man with his pistol pointed straight at you. Both of you fire at once. So, he is got a skill of 9. He is rolling a 4. I've got a skill of 11 and rolled 6, which means that I hit him and he didn't hit me. And yeah, so one round really, yes. So I won the duel, 208, only one shot because it's a duel. The man tells you that it has been an honor fighting you in such a civilized manner. He goes on to say that after the road has passed through the tunnel, it then winds through a twisting canyon and you should be on the lookout for landslides. You thank the strange man for his advice and drive into the tunnel once he has reversed the bus out of the way. Sure enough, you find yourself driving along the winding road through the canyon. Turn to 196. Heeding the man's advice, you keep a wary eye out for falling rocks and drive through the canyon very slowly. Suddenly you hear an ominous rumbling. I'm wondering if you don't get his advice, whether you'd be driving carelessly and be in trouble here. It's quite possible. Suddenly you hear an ominous rumbling sound ahead. You steer around a sharp bend and see a landslide in progress, with rocks and boulders crashing down onto the road. It soon stops and you're able to continue, as the road is not completely blocked. 351. Because it just sounds a bit sort of strange telling me about that if nothing bad can happen. So I'm thinking maybe something bad could happen if you don't know. So if you pay him, well, the only two options were to pay him credits or a duel. So if you pay him credits, maybe he doesn't tell you about it, because duel is the honorable thing, and then he wants to do the honorable thing and tell you. Well, maybe I'll look into that later. The road eventually leads out of the canyon, continuing straight on as far as the eye can see. You check your compass and see that you are traveling south once again. However, you have only driven for a few kilometers when you are forced to stop by a blockade of 2 cars parked across the road. 2 armed men in leather uniforms approach you on foot and tell you that the only way you will be allowed to drive any further south is to win a speed race along the straight road against their ace driver. If you lose the race, you will be forced to turn back. Suddenly a car draws up alongside the interceptor. You recognize the classic car of last century immediately. It is an E-Type Jaguar. Sitting in the driver's seat is a thin man with short black hair. He looks very self-assured and says, "Hi, my name's Leonardi. I used to play ball for the Mets, but now I race cars. Too bad you are driving that old trash can, but good luck anyway." 2 cars blocking the road are moved aside, and you see several more cars beyond them lining the road. A man appears with a flag ready to start the race. He lowers it sharply and the race begins while you are still trying to grasp what is happening. The E-Type screeches away slightly ahead of you. If you've had a supercharger fitted to your engine, turn to 210. I have this time over. Although I did win this one last time, but of course if you don't have one, then it's 50-50. Roll 1 die alternately, once for the E-Type and once for the Interceptor, adding 1 to the number rolled for the Interceptor because of its supercharger. Continue rolling until 1 car reaches a total of 24. So E-Type and me. So first the E-Type, he rolls a 3. I roll a 3 plus 1, not a die plus 1, which I need, so that's a 2. He rolls a 6. Oh dear. So 9. I roll 7. So I'm up to 9 as well. He rolls. Oh, come on. 15. And I roll 2. So that's 11. He rolls a 3. And I roll a 6. Oh, this is going to be close. He rolls a 1. And I'm rolling a 5, so that's 6, that's 23. So I suppose now if he rolls a 4, so he's up to 23. He could have won it there, actually, and I go up to 27, so I won it by a hair. So if I hadn't had the supercharger now, that would have been my second defeat of the day. So I win, and I go to 54. And I'll take a sip of water. You don't stop to celebrate your victory in case Leonardi is a bad loser. He does not try to follow you and gradually fades from view behind you. You pass an articulated truck which looks as if it has only recently been parked. If you wish to stop and examine the truck, turn to 104. This is where I find petrol. There is nothing of use inside the cabin and its wagon is empty. You automatically tap the petrol tank to see if there is any fuel left in it. I'm not surprised to discover that there is. Tank is made of reinforced steel, and you wonder how you can extract the petrol. If you have a length of plastic tubing, turn to 306. I do this time. Thank you very much. Length of tubing coming up. You place an empty petrol canister under the truck's petrol tank and connect them with the plastic tubing. You suck the tube to start the petrol flowing. You siphon out all of the tank's petrol, nearly filling your canister. Add 1 luck point. Oh, my luck is actually maximum at the moment. And you place the fuel inside the interceptor and continue the drive south. Turn to 118. Let's see, 118. The miles slip by and your petrol gauge once again reads almost empty. So it just comes up right after, doesn't it? Have you filled your petrol canister recently? I did, so turn to 99. You stop the car and empty the fuel canister into the petrol tank. You see that the interceptor is looking somewhat worse for wear and wonder if it will last the trip. Does it? Well, I suppose it's a little bit banged up, just a little bit. If you wish to carry out some instant repairs, turn to 21. If you'd rather drive off immediately, turn to 220. Oh, I can repair a little bit. Well, I'll just repair a little bit then. You do what you can to repair the car. It takes you about half an hour to clean the spark plugs, check the oil, tune the carburetor, and make sure that nothing vital is damaged. You find that 3 wheel nuts are loose on one of the back tires and screw them up tight again. Add 2 armor points, so that's not a huge deal, but from 24 to 26. Satisfied that everything is as well as can be expected, you set off south again, turn to 221. That's not very impressive repairs, is it? Okay, that's a long paragraph here. The road cuts a straight black line through the nightmare red landscape. The desert heat rises from the sand in shimmering waves, and your air conditioner rattles in its... I'm using an air conditioner. No wonder I'm running out of petrol all the time. Your air conditioner rattles in its noisy struggle to keep you cool. Your radio picks up... I mean, I shouldn't be using an air conditioner. You're using open the window like real men. Rattles in its noisy struggle to keep you cool. Your radio picks up nothing but static and crackles away monotonously. You keep the accelerator pressed to the floor as you speed through the Badlands. Ahead in the distance, you see black smoke curling up into the air. You slow down and brake alongside a burning car. It's an old sports car from the last century, a Corvette with its 200 brake horsepower V8 engine. Ooh, 200 horsepower. That was pretty good in 1985, not so cool now, really. I mean, if I have a V8 now, that would be a lot more powerful. A beast of the past abruptly ending its life in a ball of fire. Leaning casually against a boulder away from the burning wreck is a blonde woman, wearing black overalls and holding a shotgun. When she sees the interceptor approach, she runs out into the road to wave you down. You stop in front of her, your hand reaching for your revolver in case she tries to hijack the interceptor. You ask her where she is going, and in a stern voice she replies, "South, as far as you are concerned. I just want to lift, unless you also belong to that wild gang of road warriors who attacked me." You tell her that you are on a mission to San Anglo and offer her a ride. "San Anglo?" she yells. "You must be the person we have been expecting from New Hope." She jumps in the car and introduces herself as Amber. She says that a message went out to all patrol vehicles to be on the lookout for the interceptor, but you had to be sure that you were who you said you were. Well, why would you still be sure? She also tells you that there is a complication. For the last 2 days, San Anglo has been under constant attack from a large gang of road warriors known as the Doom Dogs, led by a man they call the Animal. It was the Doom Dogs who attacked her less than an hour ago. They are determined to massacre the inhabitants of San Anglo to have access to the reserves of petrol. It is now virtually impossible to leave or enter San Anglo without being attacked by their heavily armed cars and motorbikes. There is only one solution: to break into their camp. Is there? Oh well. To break into their camp at night and sabotage their vehicles. The look of determination in Amber's eyes convinces you that there is no alternative, and you agree to help her. She slaps the dashboard in eager excitement and tells you to drive south as quickly as possible. Half an hour later, Amber tells you to stop. In the distance, you can see smoke rising into the air. San Anglo refinery, she says in a proud voice. We'd rather die than let the vermin steal the petrol from us. Turn left, off the road. It will be dark in an hour, and then we'll have to leave the car and walk to the Doomdogs camp. Test your luck. My luck is back on 11, so I'm rolling a 9, and I'm lucky. And I'm going to paragraph 7. Amber urges you to turn off the road and head east across the stony desert ground. She lets you drive on until the interceptor cannot be seen from the road. Then she tells you to stop and wait until it gets dark. We need to be alert for our raid tonight, so I've brought along something to keep us going, she says happily, reaching into her pocket. Test your luck. If you're lucky, turn to 390. If you're unlucky, turn to 136. That's a lot of luck rolling now, so I'm failing my luck roll there. So unlucky, turn to 136. Oh, I didn't get lucky. Right, my luck still goes down by 1 point. And Amber curses and then bursts out laughing. The tube of energy pills she was carrying has fallen out through a hole in her pocket. Well, I didn't really need energy pills, did I? Turn to 32. My stamina's quite good. I've hardly been scratched in this one. You pack all your equipment into 2 backpacks and set off towards the Doomdogs camp. There is a full moon and it is not too difficult to make your way across the desert. Guided by your compass, you head steadily east. After an hour, you see the glow of a fire in the distance on the ground. Amber explains in a whisper that the Doomdogs live in the tents on top of a low, flat hill where their cars are parked. When you reach the hill, you find that the slope is very gentle and you are soon at the top. You lie down and survey the movements inside the camp. A group of people are sitting around the campfire, drinking and laughing. 2 men are walking slowly around the edge of the camp on guard duty, each armed with a rifle. You decide to crawl round the side of the hill to the barbed wire fence to put your plan into action. You hear one of the guards above you close by and press yourself against the side of the hill to avoid being seen. Amber inadvertently kicks a stone which rolls down the hill a few meters. The sound it makes is very loud in the quiet of the desert night. Test your luck. My luck is now down to 9 because of all these luck tests now. So that's a 10, so that is unlucky. My luck is down to 8. I can get a bit hairy, can't it? I'm sure there are lots of ways to die here now. Unlucky, I'm turning to 160. The guard hears the noise caused by the rolling stone and looks down in your direction. He's only a few meters above you. If you wish to jump up and try to silence him before he raises the alarm, turn to 293. I'd rather keep still on the ground, turn to 367. And try to silence him. If you possess a pair of knuckle dusters, turn to 56. I didn't get the knuckle dusters this time, did I? No, I didn't. Oh, yes, the knuckle dusters. That's for the ambulance, isn't it? Maybe I should have done the ambulance. Oh, well. If you do not possess a pair of knuckle dusters, turn to 125. So... You spring up and leap at the guard. In the eerie half-light, you see a barely visible look of surprise on his face. You have the initiative and the chance to silence him before he raises the alarm. Roll 2 dice. If the total is the same as or less than your skill, turn to 349. If the total is greater than your skill, turn to 202. So this is probably where I will have to cheat if I don't make it. My skill is 10. And I rolled a 9, so I made it. And I'm going to 349. I presume it would have been easier with the knuckle dusters. Or maybe automatic, actually. You manage to knock the guard unconscious and catch him as he falls, hoping that his friends do not notice what is happening. You tie him up with his own belt and leave him on the hillside. Well, I could have used my handcuffs now because I've got handcuffs. If you won't be long It won't be long before he is missed, so you scramble quickly up the hill to the fence. Turn to 198. And 198. There we are. You reach the barbed wire fence and see 8 vehicles inside its perimeter. The coiled wire is too finely meshed for you to be able to squeeze through without becoming entangled. If you possess a pair of wire cutters... we did get use for the wire cutters. Turn to 85, so I got my wire cutters but no knuckle dusters, so I suppose that is something. Maybe they're more important. So I'm going to 85 and use my wire cutters. Quickly snip through the wire and crawl into the compound. Amber moves from vehicle to vehicle, attaching small limpet mines to their engine blocks. When she has finished activating them, she signals for you to leave. Crawl down the side of the hill and stand up to run when you feel you are out of sight. The explosions suddenly start and you count 7 in all. One of the mines must have had a faulty fuse, Amber says in a breathless voice as you run back towards the interceptor. You hear an engine start and you look behind you to see 2 beams of light moving away from the rising flames of the burning wrecks. The Doomdogs intend to hunt down their attackers. If your current stamina is 10 or greater, well, definitely is. Turn to 107, so I presume stamina now is to do with running for a change. You run like the wind, glancing several times over your shoulder to watch the vehicles circling the hill, trying to pick up your tracks. You are less than 200 meters from the interceptor when your tracks are spotted, and the vehicle turns to give chase. An angry voice booms out over the desert through a loudspeaker, shouting, "Stop! There is no escape from the animal!" The message is repeated over and over again as the vehicle closes up on you. The welcome sight of the interceptor appears before you, and you both jump inside just as your pursuers come into view. Turn to 158. You start up the interceptor and turn to face your attackers. Your headlights illuminate a customized station wagon, which has thick sheets of plate steel riveted to its body and a pointed ramming bar protruding from its front grille. Machine gun nozzles housed on either side of the ram bar suddenly open fire. Station wagon, which has a firepower of 10, that's quite high, and an armor of 19, that's also quite high, and mine is 1126, so that is not a given at all. And you're too close to the station wagon to be able to launch a rocket. I have one left, so I could have just taken them out of service with that, but that's fine. Even if you have one left and must return fire with your own machine guns. If you survive 3 attack rounds, or vehicle combat, turn to 67. Okay, so we're not doing a full fight here. So 3 rounds. Because I'm going to survive 3 rounds regardless, but let's do them. Oh, he rolls a 9. I roll a 7, and I take 6 damage. 20. He rolls a 3. I roll an 11. He takes 5 damage. Oh yeah, so he goes 19, which means he can't actually die before 3 rounds. Which means that is intended to happen. He rolls a 5. I roll a 7. He takes a further 5 damage. And that's... Oh, no, 9, not 19. And that's 3 attack rounds, and then we go to 67, which is when more exciting things happen, presumably. Like 2 jousting knights on horseback, the 2 vehicles sweep by each other with machine guns blazing. After each pass, you turn sharply and charge at each other again, but suddenly the station wagon swerves to ram the interceptor. You turn the steering wheel to take the interceptor out of the path of the station wagon. Roll 2 dice. If the total is stress, so it's a skill test. My skill is 10, and I roll a 2. Ooh, nice. So I go to 200. You manage to avoid a head-on collision, but are rammed in the side by the station wagon. Its pointed ram bar pierces the interceptor's reinforced panel, locking the 2 vehicles together. The station wagon's loudspeaker immediately barks out a message from the animal. Fight him hand to hand or shoot it out. If you wish to fight the animal, turn to 269. If you wish to shoot it out, turn to 102. So I'm wondering, is shooting or fighting? I'm going to fight him. 269. It's got a skill of 11. You shout out that you will accept the challenge to fight the animal, on condition that you will be allowed to leave if you win. The animal agrees to the terms. You watch 2 men and 2 women climb out of the station wagon. They start to bang on the interceptor with their guns, chanting their leader's name out loud. Animal! 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 The station wagon's passenger door slowly opens, and a huge bare-chested man steps out wearing a tight-fitting face mask. Looks a bit like a wrestler, doesn't it? His clenched fists are wrapped in studded leather, and you notice that his knee-high boots have steel toe caps. When you step out of the car, he starts to snort like an angry bull. As you walk forward to fight the animal, Amber shouts her encouragement to you. So he's got 11 and 16, and I'm at the moment, I'm on 10, 32. I'm going to need some luck for this. Oh yeah, I can use luck for this. Well, I don't have much luck left. If you possess Knuckle Dusters, you will also... Oh, hang on. The animal's studded fist reduce stamina by 2. If you possess Knuckle Dusters, you will also reduce stamina by 2 points. Otherwise, only 1 point will be deducted from the animal's stamina. So it looks like getting the Knuckle Dusters is probably something one would want to do. I'll just make a note of that. Knuckle Dusters. Actually, I should do it somewhere else. Knuckle Dusters. So that means that what I've been doing now is not probably the optimum path through this game. You are supposed to, even though it's a bit risky, one is supposed to stop at the ambulance and get the Knuckle Dusters. Probably. Although I think there's a risk of losing skill, which is also a bit dangerous. So it may or may not be safer. Yeah, we'll see. Let's see. If you win the fight, yes, I have to... Hand fighting rules, so it's until we're unconscious. So that's 6. Yeah. So actually, the amount of damage doesn't really matter so much because it's a fight until someone is unconscious, which means basically it's just skill versus skill, and he has the advantage, and it was 6. First to lose 6 stamina points. Okay, so I'm quite disadvantaged here. So 6 stamina points. Okay, let's see. I might have to cheat again on this one. But let's see how we go. So he rolls a 7. I roll an 11. So my first one is... Then he loses 1 stamina. He rolls 4. I roll a 7. He loses another stamina. He rolls 4. I roll an 11. He loses another stamina. He's down by 3. He rolls a 7. I roll 4. I lose 2 stamina. He rolls a 6. I roll a 10. He loses 1 more stamina. He rolls 4. I roll an 8. He loses another stamina, and I need to hit him 1 more time to win. He rolls an 11. I roll a 7. I'm down by 2. He needs to hit me 1 more time to win. So he rolls a 4 again, which he's been doing all the time. I roll a 5, and that's a draw. He rolls a 6. I roll an 8. And I win. That was ridiculously close. Always very exciting when you know that you're just really close to dying, pretty much, or being defeated. So I won the fight, and I'm going to 350. With the disadvantage, I managed to win that fight. I'm very impressed with myself, I must say, because my chances of winning that were pretty slim. The Doom Dogs suddenly stop their cheering when the animal fails to get up from the sand. They look at one another, obviously deciding whether or not to let you go, despite their promise. Test your luck. So my luck is now only 8 because of all the luck rolls we've had lately. and I rolled a 10, so I'm unlucky, and I go to 184. The Doom Dogs are too enraged to care about their word of honor. They draw their weapons and the shootout begins. You take on 2 of them while Amber returns fire at the other 2. So now we've got a 7-13 Doom Dog and an 8-14 Doom Dog. Both Doom Dogs will fire separately during attack round. You must choose which of the 2 you will fire at. Against the other, you will throw for your attack strength in a normal way, but you will not wound him if your attack strength is greater. But discount is okay, so yes. If you win, turn to 69, but reduce your skill permanently by 1 point if you are shot more than once during the shootout. So that's one of those things about shooting combat. Your skill goes down really quickly if you are not highly skilled to start with. So, and my current skill and stamina is 1032. Oh, sorry, 1028 after my fist fight. And I'll just update my sheet there. Okay, so first Doom Dog rolls a 6. I'll just roll for both of them. So he rolls a 6. Second one rolls a 9. I should have decided which one to attack first. Okay, so I'm going to start with the first one. So I'll just keep the roll. So 6 and 9. So that's a 13 and a 17. And so I managed to dodge one bullet and hit the other one. And I rolled 1d6 for damage. So that is 7. First one rolls a 7. So that is 14. The other one rolls 11. So that's 19. And I roll 7. Which is 17. So I hit the first one and I get hit by the second one. So the first one takes 5 damage and it's down to 2. I take 2 and it's down to 20. And I'm down to 26. I'm not losing skill yet. That's if I'm hit more than once. So the first one rolls 6. I got 13. The second one rolls a 9, 17. And I roll a 7. So I'm equal with the second one. So nothing happens. And the first one loses 5 and is dead. So he rolls 4. I roll a 6. I hit him. Takes 4 damaged. He rolls an 8. I roll a 3 and I take 4 damage, and of course my normal skill is down to 9. No, that's after I win. It's not until after I win. So my skill is 10 for the duration of this combat. He rolls an 8. I roll 3 and take 4. So I'm down to 18. And yeah. He rolls a 10. I roll 3 and I take a further 2. Need it for 2 more points. He rolls a 3. I roll a 9, so he is down to 9 hit points. He rolls a 7. I roll a 6. That is, I'm still got 10, so that is me ahead, and he takes 2 injury points. Oh, sorry, not 2 left. 7 left. He rolls a 7. I roll a 9. He is injured for a further 1 point. He rolls a 2, which means I get that one, and he takes... Oh, and he's dead. And my skill is... So I'm down to 16 stamina. And skill 9. So each time you get your second injury in a shooting fight, your skill goes down 1 permanently, which is why one should avoid them. And I think, if I recall correctly, that at the ambulance there is a shooting fight, and of course there is that risk of going down in skill, which may actually make it less, and it's so early on in the game that the lowering of your skill might actually make the game harder to win with doing that. So I'll probably have to when I'm doing my aftermath episode of this game, I may have to try both ways to see which is better, because there might not be much in it. But at the moment, I'm sort of wondering whether the risk of losing skill that early might actually be worse than getting the knuckle dusters and increasing your chances of winning this one. Actually, the knuckle dusters will increase your chances by a lot, actually, for winning the battle with the animals. So probably that might be the best. But I'll get to that some other day. Right, where am I? If you win, turn to 69. The Doom Dogs are defeated and you are able to rest for the moment. By the time you manage to free the interceptor from the station wagon, the sun is rising above the eastern horizon, bathing you in warm red light. You suddenly feel optimistic about completing your mission and drive off south without any further delay. Go to 90. Amber becomes increasingly excited as you cross the desert and see the welcome sight of the San Anglo refinery burning in the distance. When you get close, she opens the door and waves to the guards on the wall. Steel entrance doors are opened and you are allowed to drive inside. You are greeted enthusiastically by the citizens and spend the rest of the day telling them about your adventures in the barbaric outlands. You are treated as a hero. Your wounds are tended and you are given the most comfortable cabin they have to offer. That night you sleep well. I had 1 skill point and 4 stamina points, so I'm up to 10 skill and 20 stamina. In the morning you wake to the sound of gunfire. You run outside and are told that the remnants of the Doom Dogs gang are making a final assault on the refinery. You climb the steps of the wall to see what is happening outside. A small truck is being driven straight towards the steel doors, and you see the driver jump clear just before impact. There is a loud explosion, and one of the doors is blown off its hinges. On motorbikes and in cars, the Doom Dogs drive straight for the breach. As the gang bursts through the wall, the citizens start to panic, and you realize you will have to take command. Roll 2 dice. Skill test. Yes, success. So 147. You shout at the citizens to fall back and take cover inside the cabins. They obey your command and the battle commences. Suddenly one of the Doom Dogs runs out from behind cover towards the armored petrol tanker which has been prepared for you to drive back to New Hope. Shoot at him but miss and watch him open the driver's door. You have no choice but to run through the crossfire to stop him driving the tanker away. Test your luck. So my luck is down to 8 and it still hasn't gone up, even though I won against the animal and found San Anglo. I would have thought that would have given me some luck. I mean, come on. I'm testing my luck and failing. Again, maybe I'll need to cheat now. We'll see what happens. You're hit in the side by a stray bullet as you run across the open space. Roll 1 die and deduct the number from your stamina. Okay, if that's what happened, then I should be okay. So 4 stamina loss, and I'm down to 16 stamina. If you're still alive, turn to 40. Okay. Oh, who's this guy? I haven't seen him before. 40. Let's see. By the time you reach the tanker, the Doom Dog has already started up the engine. You jump up and grab hold of the door handle as the man reaches for his gun. The man has a skill of 6, and if your own skill is the same or greater, turn to 81. If your skill is less than 6, turn to 296. Okay, no rolling there, so just a pure mano a mano skill, and mine is 10, so I am going to 81. Your reactions are faster than those of the Desert Raider. You fling the door open and pull him out of the driver's seat onto the ground. He is easily overcome, and then you order him to tell his friends to call off the attack. He reluctantly agrees to your demand, and the shooting stops almost immediately. You keep your gun trained on your hostage while you watch the rest of the Doom Dogs retreat back into the desert. You let the captured Doom Dog follow his friends to the jeers and cheers of the inhabitants of the San Anglo refinery. After helping with the repairs to the entrance, you tell them that it is time for you to leave. Climb into the cabin of the tanker and wave farewell. You feel sad to be abandoning your faithful interceptor, but realize the importance of this mission. 2 cars escort you north along the road until you reach the edge of the desert. You turn and drive back to San Anglo, leaving you alone on the highway once more. You decide to head directly north, ignoring all turnings that you come to. The day passes without incident, and you keep on driving well into the night. When you are too tired to drive any further, you pull into a motel car park, as there are no lights showing in the rooms. If you wish to sleep inside the cabin of the tanker, turn to 218. If you wish to go inside the motel, turn to 335. Well, in this kind of world, there's one place I definitely do not wish to sleep is in a motel. I mean, even if civilization still was in working order, I'm not sure about motels. So I'm going to sleep in the cabin and go to 218. Although you sleep very lightly, waking at the slightest sound, the night passes peacefully. At first light, you are on the road again. All is fine for an hour or so until you see in your wing mirror 2 motorbikes approaching. Unfortunately, the petrol tanker is not armed with rear missile weapons, but it has a swivel-mounted machine gun on the cabin roof. As they draw nearer, you see that both bikers are carrying crossbows. That doesn't sound like the best weapon against a tanker or a car, but they accelerate alongside the tanker, one on each side, and fire their crossbows at your front tires. Oh, I see. You reply by firing your machine gun at the bike on your left. Roll 2 dice. The total is the same as or less than your skill. Yes. Turn up to 52. Your rapid-firing machine gun does not miss its target, and the bike skids off the road, crashing into a tree. But the rider does not die in vain. His crossbow bolt pierces your front tire and sends the tanker into a frightening skid. Wrestling with the steering wheel, you just manage to keep control and slide to a halt. Trapped inside your cabin, you wait to see what the other biker will do next. He parks behind the tanker and shouts at you to leave the cabin. You reply in a few words, but leave him in no doubt as to what you think of his suggestion. Ah, yes, this is where, the only place I've seen so far where it's obvious that this is for younger readers, since he wouldn't use any profanities in this kind of book. How about a duel, then? Winner takes all, shouts the man. If you wish to agree to his proposal, turn to 164. If you'd rather sit it out, turn to 190. Sit it out? Would I sit there and wait for him to... Yeah, I suppose I have to duel him then, don't I? The hijacker tells you to step down on the road and prepare to draw your revolver. You jump down from the cabin and face the fearsome-looking man, with his crossbow pointed at the ground. He snarls loudly in order to unnerve you, but you are unperturbed by his tactics and tell him to fire whenever he is ready. His arm comes up quickly to signal the start of the duel. Roll 1 die and add the number to your current skill score. Oh, that's 16. Roll the die again and add the number to the hijacker skill of 7. Oh, that means I'm 1 already. Ooh, very good. If your total is the same as or greater than that of the hijacker, which it is, you just beat your opponent to the draw and watch him drop to the ground as your bullet finds its mark. Climb back inside the driver's cabin and set off north. All day you drive as fast as the tanker will go. Apart from this organized ambush attempt in the late afternoon, which you easily smash through with the armored tanker, there are no incidents on the road. It is nearly dusk when you reach the outskirts of New Hope. Its high defended walls a strange but welcoming sight. If you were bitten by a rat on your homeward journey, turn to 275. If you escaped being bitten, turn to 380. So I guess I presume that must be in the motel then, that you can get bitten by a rat. I didn't get bitten by a rat, so I'll go to 380. You drive on towards New Hope and are relieved to see the town gates open. Hundreds of citizens turn out to greet you, and you are given a hero's reception again. The petrol will be put to good use to help build for the future. Civilization, albeit in a small way, is on the road to recovery. If you also manage to rescue Sinclair during your adventure, consider your mission a triumph. And I did rescue Sinclair, so my mission is a triumph, and this tells me that you don't have to rescue Sinclair, actually, which is interesting. I'm also a little bit curious about what happens if you get bitten by the rat. Now, what was that again? I can't remember the number now. And I'll look into that some other time, I guess. Yeah, I was not expecting to actually make it this time. Although technically I didn't make it. There was one die roll with a 50-50 chance. That was it. Skill check or die roll? It was just a die roll, wasn't it? That failed. That made me fail once. So I think I'll call that an absolute success. I was really lucky some other times, especially with the combat with the animal, which actually was less likely for me to succeed than the animal combat, of course, was less likely to succeed than the die roll I failed. So I'm actually calling victory on this. Within the rules of the normal rules of fighting fantasy cheating, I didn't cheat much at all. I only did it once, and also to start with, I also did not give myself 12 skill and luck just to give the game a fighting chance against me, and I think that was quite fair and also made this a little bit more exciting as well. So there you have it, Freeway Fighter. It's a beatable game. Although there are some bits here that are quite tricky. Now, it's quite a convoluted map, especially if you're doing a one with all the paragraphs. And I will have to work a little bit trying to explore the options I haven't taken, the roads I haven't taken on this one, and see if what I just did is the optimum thing, or maybe going for the ambulance and getting the knuckle duster is actually essential to winning the game or make your victory more likely. So I will be doing an aftermath episode on this, and I will also, if my sort of walkthrough path is significantly different from what I just did, I will maybe say something about that as well, although I will not post the path necessarily until I got my map ready. So, well, if you've been watching all of this, it's been a long episode again, but I think it's been a nice one. I quite really got into this one. It's a very enjoyable book. I'm not going to say anything about sort of rating these books, at least not yet. I've done 2 books now since I started getting into this again. So I've done Return to Firetop Mountain, of course, over the last 2 weeks, and of course now Freeway Fighter over the last week. This does seem a bit easier than this one, but this is an earlier book, and I think they were easier. But of course, this one is easier to map because the mapping is a bit more linear. Here you have a lot of crossing over east to west, and it's a little bit trickier finding the correct path, and also a bit trickier, I think, to calculate your chances of winning. But I will do that as well because I think that's fun. So, what will be my next book? I don't know. I'll decide on something one of these coming days. And of course now I've got practically all of them. There's still a few I don't have yet. I've even got this one in almost as new condition. Imagine that. And at less than market price as well. Very proud of that. So I will see which one I want to pick out next. I'm thinking I'm still going to do one of the earlier ones. I've just done, of course I did fantasy, I did science fiction, or perhaps you should just call it a sort of a future adventure rather than future fantasy, almost, rather than science fiction in a way. My next one will have to be a fantasy one again, I think, and I'll see which one I'll go with later. So until I see you again, enjoy yourselves, and I hope you enjoyed this episode, and thanks for watching. Thanks for your patience in watching this with me. And also, I'm a bit sorry about my voice is going. My throat is a bit dry, and I'm a bit sniffly, so it's been a very strange weather here, and I think that's affecting me a lot. And also, sometimes I'm wondering if maybe I have even if I'm not allergic, and maybe I'm reacting a little bit to pollen, because it is that time of year when some pollen might begin to be in the air, but I'm not sure. I think it's still the winter and the some winter dryness we're having that is making my throat dry, hopefully. And hopefully not coronavirus, even though it is quite likely that I will get it at some point. Anyway, thanks for watching again, and goodbye for now.